Hi, welcome to this session of Blues Talk. Again, John, Dave, and myself. We're going to look back over our victory against Treviso last weekend, all the European Cup action, and of course, look forward to our game in Lyon at the weekend. So, lads, 33-19 against Treviso. Good win, bit rusty though, but pretty good win.
I certainly take that.
Yeah, job done.
Take that and party,
Yeah.
as they used to say in the 90s.
I never said
They
that.
they came to disrupt. They came to play. They're a bloody good team now.
Yeah, they're
Really well coached. Really up for it. Didn't lay down at any stage of the game. They did a lot of questionably stuff and got away with a lot of it as well with the ref. But I wouldn't begrudge them that either. The ref was a little bit charitable at certain points of the game as well. There was one blatant one which I could see from where we were. There was a guy on his hands and knees, like literally. He wasn't, off his feet. He was on his hands and knees, taking the ball out of the ruck, and it was a penalty to them. So a few little things of that, but I think job done. Move on. Integrated a few more guys from the World Cup, and motoring nicely. Not indicative that we're going to win the cup or anything, but it's exactly where we want to be.
It's a good
Stuff
start.
to improve on, and more guys integrated. No major injuries. Bonus point win. Great.
Yeah, it was a good start. I mean, like you say, there was an element of mix and gather into the team because a lot of them hadn't played before this season. Then there was guys who were supposed to play, couldn't, so there was a bit of disruption there. So they came back from all that. Treviso won those teams. You can't win against Treviso.
It's kind of changing now, Dave.
No, but there's still that perception out there that you're supposed to beat Treviso
them, yeah.
and you're supposed to score, multiple tries, and you're supposed to get a bonus point win, and it's supposed to be handy enough.
Mm-hmm.
Treviso are a better side than that, and it'll take perception a year or two to catch up with that, I think.
Yeah.
Treviso are a better side than that. They're a hard team to beat. We have a poor enough record against them in recent years.
In the RDS.
In the RDS. And that's not for nothing. That's because of the improvements that they've shown over the last couple of years, especially since Crowley took over.
In fairness, it's also because they've been dead rubbers for us.
There has been an
2
element of that to
seasons.
it as well. But a team like Leinster doesn't do dead rubbers really. With that level of kind
We
of
seem to have in the last
drive.
2 seasons. Once we got
possibly
like the 2 seasons ago when we won the double, we actually ended up on the same points as the Scarlets, and we only topped the pool by goal difference or points difference.
We walked away with our section of the conference last year.
Same thing last
Yes,
year. Yeah.
I think we lose 3 out of
We
4.
lost exactly.
And we ended up in the second Irish seeds.
So we met Treviso both seasons, as far as I can remember. Anyway, in that mode where we were, the job was already done, and it was a dead rubber for. It wasn't a dead rubber for them,
No, there wasn't.
but it was a dead rubber for us.
But that's our problem. That's an error we made.
And every game we play, other clubs, especially say inverted commas smaller clubs, see it as their cup final to
Sure.
to take us on.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
And that's what we have to live with. And we didn't in the last 2 years. We did on Saturday, and that was. I say it before that Leinster in the Heineken Cup are a different beast than Leinster in Pro 14, and you could see that. I thought one area that concerned me, well, not concerned me, but disappointed me was our back row. I thought our back row, without the ball, kind of got cleaned out of it a bit. They slowed down ball with impunity, and now obviously the ref doesn't help. But that's the back row's job, is to speed up our ball and slow down their ball. It didn't really do that. Their back row, I think, was on top. Our front five, however, completely demolished theirs.
I brought my daughter to the game, and we ended up sitting up in the north stand. It was absolutely freezing, and the match must have lasted a half an hour longer than 80 minutes, because like it was just so stop start. It was staccato. It was just because of these infringements, and then the referee wasn't getting the grips with certain things. The scrums were just. Do you know what I mean? It was just taking forever, and as you say, Dave, they sort of they got away with it, but they did their job well. They wanted to do that. They didn't want to allow us to have continuity.
That was a game that was played at their pace, or closer to a pace that they wanted than to a pace that we would have wanted to play at. And that's kind of their job,
Yeah. Well, you use whatever you've got and whatever you can. like, there's no point in being England in the World Cup final in 1991 and going, they say we can't chuck it about, let's chuck it about. You know, you play to what you've got, and if you have, you know, it's not saying that they can't chuck it about, but what they've got is niggle and you know, bringing things down to the same level, like trying to negate your back row, not letting the other team get a handle on the game, any front foot ball. You know, that's the kind of game they want to play.
Yeah.
Have to play whatever, and fair play to them.
But
That's-
like you
do
see
what
the difference in class
You do what you
now.
got.
We get into the 22, and we take our chances. They got into our 22
Yeah.
and didn't take their chances. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, despite what we were just saying about, you know, some of the maybe the, for want of a better phrase, negative aspects of Leinster's performance, there were a huge amount of positives. First of all, we did take our chance. Whenever we got into the red zone, we generally came away with a try. Our front five pretty much demolished theirs. Our line out certainly did.
Well, Toner, it was great to see Toner
Well,
Yeah, Toner was very
back.
good.
You know, he's obviously had a very tough 2 months, 3 months since he got dropped from Ireland, and I know he'd been injured beforehand, but he seems to be back.
yeah,
Oh yeah, yeah.
great
I
to
mean,
have them.
if ever you want someone to undermine an opposition line out in terms of, you know, just pure game intelligence, Toner's your man. But I mean, like I say, those elements were very, very strong. Our individual players, when faced with one-on-ones, generally made the gain line. If you look at it, we look at the tries later, but every single one was a succession of, you know, their defensive line having to creep backwards and backwards and backwards, so they're always on their back foot, and that obviously culminates in certainly in the first Ringrose try. Last Ringrose try was a bit weak in terms of defence, but the first Ringrose try was guys having to go backwards and then forwards, and you could see that kind of the switch in direction didn't really suit them.
Yeah.
But you know, it was a good performance. 5 points, job done. They will take a scalp in this group.
Mm-hmm.
I'm certain of that.
Yeah.
Hopefully Northampton next week.
But like, you know, we had, it's kind of, this seems to be a kind of a transition starting even in the team now, you know, like there was 2 new fellas coming into the team that were making their European Cup debuts, Caelan Dowers and Kelleher.
Mm-hmm.
And then you had Carney not being selected, not even making the 23.
Yeah.
Larmer coming in.
Not only did he not make the 23, but even when, I know they had a ready-made replacement in Henshaw, but even when Tamani they didn't do any shuffling to accommodate Carney by bringing Larmer in somewhere else. But, you know, it is a bit of a period of transition, I feel. I think that's the point you're aiming at, where we're trying to blood new players in Europe.
It's interesting, I read a piece, I think it was last week's paper. Apparently Sean O'Brien came in and gave a farewell speech to the players and really tried to G them up, you know, G up the young fellas coming into the team about what representing Leinster means and playing in Europe, and, you know, the first weekend of the European Cup and all that kind of stuff. You know, it was kind of like passing on the baton as he's transitioning out of Leinster, and then you've got the likes of Darius and Kelleher,
Deegan
coming through, Deegan coming through, and a rake of others, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a kind of, you know, a lot of the spine that Leinster that made Leinster successful, we say between 2008 and 2013, are gone.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the only one that's still there
Well
really
gone.
is Johnny.
Yeah.
I mean,
Toner maybe.
and maybe Toner.
Toner.
Toner was coming.
Rob Kearney.
Been in and out. Well, sorry, I mean, in terms of, you know, as things stand, he's not an automatic starter. So you've got Sean's gone, Jamie's gone, O'Driscoll and Darcy are gone. Rob Kearney
Jamie Heasley
has slipped. I said that Jamie
sorry.
has slipped off the automatic starting sheet. So, I mean, but that's it. You do have to transition. If you don't transition, you end up.
But that possibly what kind of did for us in those couple of fallow years, you know, that we lost a lot of players all very quickly, and then we hadn't quite blended the players through. Do you remember there was a match against Wasps maybe 5 years ago, where they played a load of young fellas? Bath, sorry.
That's 4 years ago.
4 years ago, and all of a sudden, you know what I mean, it was looked, oh, these are kind of new kids coming through, but for various different reasons they didn't continue on playing those. They brought back in the older guard that were still coming to the end or weren't quite going to be as good as the kids coming through.
Yeah, the following game was against Wasps in Wasps,
Mhm.
and in Coventry,
Mhm.
and all those guys were dropped for it.
Yeah.
But the coach isn't always free to select as he wishes to select. because
Apparently, Ringrose was doing exams, that kind
Yeah.
of quite.
you got that as well, and then I mean you got games in January, and there's some tournament on in February that's quite important. So you kind of you do have your hands tied a little bit. Generally, the guys who you're going to pick as internationals because they're internationals, you're going to pick anyway. But sometimes you might want to, and then you had stuff like injuries. I mean, we had Bod and Darcy's transition nailed down, and then Owen O'Malley goes off and gets injured.
Yeah.
And he's the kind of the guy who's going to play between, say, O'Driscoll's hanging up his boots and maybe Ringrose coming through, and then you've got that gap and you have to go out and you're scrambling around after that. So
Mhm. Yeah, we ended up getting Ben Teo, Robbie Henshaw, whatever.
there was a lot of
Yeah.
scrambling going on to try and replace
Mm.
because we'd lost that kind of internal injury.
Even McFadden was kind of
Yeah.
playing bits and pieces in the centre. And
That's a long time ago.
It was,
though.
yeah.
He's
It was,
kind
but there
of
was always a sense that
he
McFadden.
became a winger
there was
along.
always a sense that McFadden and O'Malley
Yeah.
would
Well,
be
Yeah,
they
but
were kind
that's-
of.
at least a transitional pairing anyway.
That sense was back in 2011, or it wasn't. I know O'Malley. I can't remember what year O'Malley retired, but I think it was probably about 13, 12
Yeah.
or 13.
13, yeah.
But Fergus never played very, very rarely played in the wing once or in the centre. Once Joe Schmidt kind of selected him as a winger for the national team, that was the end of his. I think he maybe once or twice. That's
But the thing is, if he was encouraged,
went into the centre.
like say when Darcy came through, Darcy was a winger and a full back,
Yeah,
and then he kind of transitioned into playing centre. And the opposite case,
happened to Fergus.
well, the opposite
Yeah.
case happened to say Shane Horgan,
Yeah.
who started out as a 12 and ended up at 14.
Mm-hmm.
So do you know what I mean? Like fellas can just get shunted in if there's opportunities there. McFadden was initially a centre and then said, well, look, what am I going to be? And I think Schmidt said to him, you have more opportunities on the wing because currently the two centres
A
are
removal.
the Irish centres.
But and if those two centres went away, then
Yeah.
obviously the
Well,
opportunity.
he had the
Yeah.
he might have had
he
an
might have had those
opportunity.
opportunities then.
He also had
And-
Luke
and he-
Fitzgerald, who was tried in the centre
And
quite a bit
He'd
as well
lost
around that time.
maybe that because he was extraordinary. He had blinding pace when he first came into the thing, and then he'd had that knee injury, so he'd lost that extra yard of pace that he had. I mean, he's still very, very quick,
He is,
but he lost that extra yard of pace that he had, which so maybe a move to the centre was suited. And he was a very good kicker as well.
Mhm.
So a move to second 5'8", for want of a better phrase, actually would have suited him, because I remember him filling in for Ireland in the Churchill Cup.
He was 13.
At out half.
All right.
When guys were getting sin binned and stuff like that, he'd fill in out half and he could play that role.
Mm-hmm.
So do you have the tries there,
I
David?
do indeed. Shall we start?
Lash them up.
I thought Luke McGrath, I know he played the previous week as well, but he's officially bedded in now at this stage, really, isn't he?
I think he is, yeah.
Ringer,
That was a nice bit of play.
number 1. With the headgear disguise. He doesn't look like himself with the headgear, does he?
Bjorn Borg thing going on there, is there?
I think it's Bjorn injury.
Yeah.
It looks like a bit of a plaster on the head there, doesn't it?
Yeah,
It's good to see him in such good form, though, isn't it?
It is, yeah. It certainly is.
And as for Ronan Kelleher, just, Dougie Howell to be proud of his try scoring. Right? Seriously. Now, I know some of them have been out, a lot of them have been off mauls and stuff, but
But he's taken his opportunity. Like you've got
Sure has.
Sean Cronin's injured.
Yeah.
Rory Best is retired. So that's two
Yeah.
lads out of the equation nearly. And he's just jumped straight in. Playing for the European, potential European Cup winning team.
No, that's
That one
exactly
was
it.
a
That's what you have
relatively-
to do. If you get a chance, you take it, and you don't let it go. And that's what he's done. I mean, even when Sean Cronin comes back, you could nearly argue that he should be the starting.
But like if he's
hooker.
selected to play,
here he comes.
just say he's selected to play against Italy
Mm.
in the Six Nations. No one can deny him that. They can't sort of turn around and say, well, why is, like for instance, remember Klein during the World Cup, and you say, well, there's so much controversy about Klein being selected ahead of Toner. You couldn't say that. You couldn't justify anybody saying, well, Kelleher shouldn't be there. It should be X, Y, or Z.
No, he's certainly he's
There's no one else pulling up
a
trees.
position on form at this point in the season, certainly. Great play from Ringer down there. Sure, great leg drive there.
Did. I think
For someone who's quite willowy, he's very powerful.
He is, yeah.
I think we said it last week about how, Niall Scannell maybe hasn't delivered on the early promise he showed. I wouldn't write him off by any stretch of the imagination, but he's just not, and Rob Herring was always a bit of a, what would I say, an injury replacement kind of a hooker. He's never, again, very good player, but at international level, perhaps not so much. Whereas Kelleher looks like he could be, things go well for him, he could be a star. Could be there for a long time because he's only about 14.
But like what he needs to do is needs to get his basics 100%.
Yeah.
Get his line out, get his scrummage
I
in.
mentioned the week before about his line out throw. His line out throw was as
Better
I say,
than most
Michael-
Leinster
as-
hookers.
As I say, my cousin Vinny, dead balls accurate.
Here he goes.
And he's very dynamic, of course, and he's
Nice
a good
for a
footballer. If he demonstrates over the next couple of weeks his basics are better, then everything else he has we know is better.
Yeah.
So
There's several guys who are springing to my mind now in terms of having a brother who's a back, like Tom Youngs, who's a hooker, Saya Fayenga, I think it is.
yeah, that's right. Yeah,
Who's a hooker, and his brother is, in fact, he's got the full set.
yeah.
He's got a brother in the back row for Connacht, and he's
Yeah,
also got a
Connacht,
brother who I think is
Wallaby.
forward him, but he's got a brother who's a Wallaby in the backs as well. So there are parallels there where, because he's got his brother Kane who's a little bit older, who's an outside back as well. And what I'm going for with this is that
He was a
they
good try.
have obviously bulked up.
Richie Wallace, there's another one.
Yeah, you could see it with Tom Youngs, for example, that he'd really eaten the bacon and cabbage.
We keep forgetting sometimes.
Sorry, I'm distracting from
A, how quick Sexton is,
Johnny.
and B, how powerful he is. Sometimes we forget that.
Johnny breaking and then being ready to collect the ball around the back. Like, he was tackled. You
Yeah.
see it in the replay.
Yeah.
He was tackled and he went out of shot completely, got up and managed to,
Those lads, they mustn't get paid for tries.
Yeah.
Because Van der Fleer was
They
very
probably could have
generous.
done it. I'd say they get fined for
They
blowing
fine,
tries.
exactly,
Maybe, yeah.
that's it. They get fined for not letting it out and
Yeah.
blowing a certain try. Like, there he is, he's scragged, he gets away,
Then he hits the afterburners.
he's tackled. Okay, he wasn't tackled, sorry, but he was stopped. And he managed to get back around.
He timed his support line very nicely there,
Yeah.
actually.
You could see he enjoyed that too. Shades of shouting at Ronan O'Gara under the posts in Croke Park.
And Ringrose's final try, I mean, it's very poor defending, it must be said. James Ryan, I thought, had a quiet enough game for him. But then I suppose first game back and all that.
Yeah. Yeah, but I think the words in that sentence are for him, because he's like all action all the time, 500 tackles.
Generally
carries.
expect that from him, all right. And then the time he only does 400 tackles.
Exactly.
You notice it.
Just what you mentioned there, Dave, about Sexton shouting like he did 10 years ago, in Croke Park. Just noticed there you had Ringrose throwing the ball into the crowd, shouting. You had Jacob Stockdale on his intercept at the very last minute, again shouting, spiking the ball. Like, it's just, there were three lads that say, okay, Ringrose didn't quite underperform at the World Cup, but the other two did. But obviously, regardless of how well Ringrose played during the World Cup, I'm sure he's still bitterly disappointed that the campaign ended so poorly for them. But it was almost like this release of frustration.
Yeah, you get that. I remember a lot, actually, when Leinster players would come back to Ireland after at the fag end of the kidney time. That they were coming out of an environment that for whatever reason wasn't working, and coming back into an environment that for whatever reason was. And then you get out on the pitch and you do stuff and you get your reward for the work you put in, which they weren't doing at the end of the Kidney era, they weren't doing at the end of the Schmidt era.
Yeah.
So there's that kind of...
But there just seemed
there's a relief.
But there was this frustration that they obviously had for the last couple of months, or just presumably just the way the whole thing ended, and their cash performances, and been stuffed against the All Blacks, and then they come back and they play their next match 3 or 4 weeks later since that All Blacks match, and they just have this really good performance. They score a try, or they intercept one at the death of the game to win it for Ulster, and it's just this massive amount of relief and frustration just comes out, and it's great to see that they can kind of compartmentalise their previous couple of months and just start again.
Well, you mentioned Sexton as having a shit World Cup. I would say, like, he missed the Japan game. Where we got beaten. We had a good game against Scotland. He played very well against Samoa.
We played only half the game against Samoa.
Okay, he, nobody had a good game against New Zealand.
Yeah. No, that's fair enough. That's fair enough.
I wouldn't. And he
but
was
don't
obviously
forget
injured when he missed the game against Japan.
Okay, no, fine. But he's frustrated because of the injury. But then, if you remember that New Zealand match, maybe 10 minutes in, he missed a fairly straightforward penalty to touch, which then led to a very soft try to concede, and you know what I mean. It kind of started off, and it all fell apart from there. You can't blame it on one person, but Sexton is your most experienced.
We can shoulder some of the blame for the New Zealand game for sure.
And he's the leader on the pitch. You want him to be the one that doesn't make the bloody mistake of kicking the ball, not making your touch.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, that's just natural, really. And maybe one of the things you find with organisations that aren't working the way that you'd want them to work is that the fear of failure becomes paralysing.
Yeah.
And players don't do the things they need to do, that extra 1%, that take that extra little risk that they have to take to be successful, because
confidence isn't there.
That confidence isn't there, and there is that fear of failure. And then they get back into an environment that they're comfortable with, that's a different environment. It doesn't have to be better or worse, it's just different. And they feel better about themselves and about their decision-making process.
Yeah. So, just looking at the other fixtures over the weekend, like, it was interesting to see the kind of the breakdown in results. There was of the English sides, 2 of their 7 teams in the competition won. All 4 Irish teams won, and 3 of the 6 French clubs won.
And all the Pro 14 teams won except where they were playing another Pro 14
it's quite
team.
But I suppose you kind of have to balance that out. The English teams pretty much were without their World Cup stars, and they did play in a final. Likewise, the Welsh, they did play on the last weekend as well.
Absolutely.
So
and not only that, but all the most internationals of any league is the Pro 14, because it's got 5 nations. Okay, the South Africans aren't really playing many World Cup in their 2 teams, but all the other nations are playing all their World Cup players pretty much. And when you've got them all in 2 teams in Scotland and Italy, and 4 in Wales and Ireland, that's a lot of players people are losing.
Yeah.
So yes, Saracens were obviously handicapped losing 9, but most other teams in France and England, there might be 2 or 3 or.
Okay, but like those teams aren't, like say Bath for instance.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? Like they were missing a few there.
Yeah. Bath had probably about 3, did they?
Yeah, but like if you take those 3 out of that Bath team, Bath are a pretty average team. Do you know what I mean?
Underhill was playing.
Yeah, there was actually, I think there's 4 from Bath. Maybe.
Yeah, they had a couple. They had 1 or 2 back.
Yeah.
But
Underhill, Watson,
Watson,
And Lowe.
Lowe.
Lowe was missing anyway, wasn't he?
Underhill is actually, from what I can do, Underhill and Watson are the 2 most important. They were missing 50% of that. So I mean, in fairness, but then again, I mean, Premiership's not a great league. There aren't great teams in it, apart from Saracens. We know how they got there.
Well, yeah, and Exeter.
And Exeter,
who allegedly didn't.
I mean,
Bath and Bristol have spent an awful lot of money, though. I mean, when the last salary cap rumour things were going around 4 years ago, it was Bath and Saracens. This time it's just Saracens.
There was a lovely picture on BT Sport during the Ulster Bath match where they had Nigel sitting beside your man Dyson in the stand, with Dyson with his little black circular glasses.
Fair enough.
And the commentator, I don't know who it is, just was just saying, "Oh, they're interested spectators
In the Brexit corner.
in the Brexit corner."
Yeah.
I was just a wry smile to myself when I saw it.
Mm.
But that's,
Is Bruce Craig a Brexiteer? I know Dyson is.
Oh, Bruce would be, I'd say, yeah.
I don't know. I know Dyson is, and then promptly moved his businesses out of the UK
Yeah, sensible.
to countries with trade agreements with the EU, because he's a hypocrite. But anyway,
Let's leave the politics out of sport,
Yeah.
Dave.
a little bit of politics there, a little bit of politics.
Oh, we just quickly just go through some of the results.
Yeah.
So we have a quick chat about them. So
Yeah.
the opening match on Friday, last Friday, was Toulouse beating Gloucester in Kingsholm.
Mhm.
So most of it.
Yeah, I watched it as well, and I'm trying to remember.
Gloucester were way ahead.
Yeah,
Gloucester
and
were ahead, but they
22-0 or something.
but they
22,
didn't deserve to be.
6.
Yeah, at
Their scrum half
at
scored.
half time they were getting hammered, but were winning
Yeah.
by quite a
Their
margin.
scrum
because
half scored
the
two
scrum half
magic.
scored two breakaway
Yeah.
tries. Yeah,
Yeah.
He's moved from Wasps, Robson. Geez, he's quick.
Yeah,
But if it wasn't for those, they would have been well behind. You know, I mean, they were getting played off the park, but had those things. I mean, they're an English team, and English teams are doughty. But Toulouse class showed in the end. They were just able to lift up the pace a little bit in the second half.
He
And that
won
was
by
it.
a couple of points, I
Yeah.
think, didn't he?
I don't
Number
think, I don't
five,
think
yeah.
Toulouse are going to win the tournament this year. But they're back to being a serious force in Europe. And a tournament win in the next couple of years wouldn't surprise me at all.
they've Kobe to come back in, don't they?
They have, yeah.
Well, it's them and us for the race to 5 titles.
Yeah.
So hopefully we get there before them, whether it's this year or another year.
We briefly touched on the Bath Ulster match. Again, another kind of topsy-turvy game. Bath were leading, and then they had an opportunity to score
Yeah.
a
In the
2-on-1 at the end,
How
and
did they not score that?
Stockdale came in. Well, Stockdale, bit of brilliance and fairness from him
Yeah.
to dive back in. And
When you see it from behind, you realise how he managed the situation.
Cover a lot of
you could
ground.
see him pointing.
Yeah, telling guys what to say.
Yeah,
And
you
he-
stay here,
yeah,
you stay.
Yeah, he read that situation
Yeah.
very, very well.
It was great to see, wasn't it?
It was good to see. Good.
Like-
Again, that's that revisited.
But-
I mean, that's that confidence reborn.
But he's had, like, you know, do you remember he played against Leinster in the RDS and someone a reporter ran over him and he was being criticised for his defence. But you just wonder, maybe after being away for 2 or 3 months with Ireland, with Andy Farrell, maybe, you know, he could only learn from training with Andy Farrell, that maybe his positional sense is improving. Because if you forget that he's quite young, like he's probably way ahead of his curve where he should be at this point.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And he's a starter for Ireland now, but probably only should be, in his mind, or, you know, if he was doing it in a progressive way, he should probably be only just bedding himself into the Ulster team.
Well, this is really only his third season as a nailed-on starter for either Ireland or
Yeah.
Ulster. So, I mean, you always have second season syndrome, which he kind of did have.
Getting worked out.
He
by
still
the
scored
opposition.
4 Ireland tries last year.
Yeah.
Do you know?
Yeah,
Like
I mean, people that's it. He scored 4, and people have said that's a disappointing return, and it is for him.
Yeah.
For any other winger, scoring 4 tries in the space of not even a calendar year would be quite a haul.
I know Luke Fitzgerald always gets a pounding for, but I mean, I think that's his career total is about 3 or 4. So
Yeah.
for Ireland, so yeah, well done.
Yeah, and Billy won the Battle of the Burns Boys.
He did.
Yeah,
He did.
and signed,
And re-signed.
For another
for-
couple of years.
Yeah.
which is interesting.
Glasgow beat Sale 13-7. I
Didn't
didn't see
one.
that game.
No, neither did I.
Actually, I just saw the highlights. There was
I don't think
a
you
one.
could, I don't think you could force me to watch Glasgow play. So.
There was a great try from DTH Van der Meer.
Yeah.
Lovely break in the corner.
Have Sale got their, because they've got a lot of
I
South
don't think they have
Africans.
Faf back.
Have they got them
I
all
don't
to
think
come
so.
back?
No. They do have them to come back, yeah.
Yeah.
They have a few England internationals as well, don't they? They've,
Yeah.
what's his face? The
Is
fellow with the brother.
yeah, that's
The fellow with the twin
narrowing it down.
Yeah.
Don't they? Do they still have your man Edge McGinty? Is he still playing?
Yes, he is,
Yeah,
yeah.
he played
yeah.
the other day as well.
The Yank.
Yeah,
The Yank.
the Yank. Another returning international.
Rogers' team, La Rochelle, beaten by Exeter at home. I was
Yeah.
surprised at that result, that Exeter were so strong against them.
Well, Exeter are pretty damn strong, and they don't have a
No, but
pedigree
La-
in the
La-
competition
but
yet.
La
La
Rochelle
Rochelle.
were in the final. Like, you know, they obviously took
The Challenge Cup final.
Oh,
yeah.
but I'm saying is that they took that competition seriously, whereas a lot of other French teams, we know that they don't. Whereas La Rochelle obviously took the Challenge Cup reasonably seriously, and I thought that O'Gara there and, you know, say a non-French
Get them up for Europe.
coaching side. I'm not saying that they capitulated. Like Exeter are a very strong side, but
Yeah.
to go down 31-12 at home is.
And of course, Exeter wouldn't have had any of their English players.
No French team likes that.
No.
Going in within earshot of their clock tower or whatever,
Yeah.
whatever they say. So yeah, it's interesting. But are they? Where are they in the top 14? Are they worried about their?
mid-table? I don't know.
I mean, at this time of the season, the difference between first and like ninth is I think it's 3 or 4 points. It's a small difference, and a lot of it is based on who's had the most home games.
Yeah, as ever.
And who's played the most teams that have
Players
loads of
away.
World Cup players.
Well, that actually, we get onto that when we come to Leon. Claremont beat Quins fairly handily. Claremont looking strong.
They always do this time of season.
Unsurprising.
When there's nothing at stake, you can't beat Claremont.
Yeah, Munster
The least
beat
successful team in the history of European rugby. Okay.
Munster beat Ospreys 32-13.
Yeah, that's a game I saw.
Don't know why.
Ospreys were fairly abject, unsurprisingly, because they got beaten at home by Southern Kings. First away win in the competition since ever last week. So they are in the shit. They've less money this year, less than what was already 3 and 4 months. So they're coming under pressure. And thirdly, they've no internationals, and they don't have any.
They obviously don't have.
They don't
much
have
of
anything behind their internationals at all. So
And,
Munster
well,
went
in
out.
fairness, the internationals they have are exceptional players. I
Of course.
You take Alan Wynne Jones if you take Alan Wynne Jones out of the Leinster team, it would make a big difference.
Of course, but like
and same with Pirich.
Yeah.
And then they lost, of course, Bigger over the summer.
Northampton,
They
he's
have
playing.
Yeah,
He's
he's playing. Yeah.
playing. So in a way, it's kind of not a huge endorsement for Munster to go over there and eke out a bonus point in 84 minutes or whatever it was. Like they literally left it till the last second. So I wouldn't be getting too excited about Munster either yet in Europe. I know they've 2 new coaches that are trying to bed in, and I'm not criticising them really. Conor Murray had a pretty good game. Outside of that, were there any major standouts?
The prop.
Yeah, Lockman played well. I'm not really sure. I mean, Munster can point to the fact that
Well, if Jeremy Lockman is your
Again-
best player, what's
again,
that say about all your
Munster can
internationals?
point to the fact that they were trying to fold back a lot of players
Second best player.
in a short period of time, and they do have some injuries, particularly at out half, and they might
That's
carry
true.
a fullback. I mean, it's not easy for them.
You really don't like him, do you?
He is what he is.
Interesting. Last week we kind of touched on the Welsh clubs not having any money. I actually saw an article saying that the Welsh Union turned over the record amount of money last season, and it stands to reason because they won the Six Nations.
Yeah.
Presumably they work
well
on
in
a
the World
similar
Cup.
kind of basis that we do, that they get 85% of their revenue from the national team. Presumably Wales work on that principle.
Yeah, but it's a very, very different setup. The regions,
Below that.
the regions,
But they still have they still got nearly 100 million turnover.
Sure, but they don't own the regions, so they're
I
not going to be
appreciate that,
pumping the money
but
into them the way
the
we are.
union has this cash flow,
That's true.
and they have started to reinvest in the clubs, haven't they?
Clubs, not regions. There's a difference.
Well, they do have a second tier that's a bit more advanced than ours. Well, not. Well,
I don't think it is.
Is it?
I don't
It's kind
think
of-
I thought so.
It's allegedly more.
I mean,
it's
we've
a
seen
bit more
their-
semi-pro than
We've
ours
seen their
is.
Premiership select teams in the British and Irish Cup over the years.
Would be
Forget the
interest,
Premiership.
it'd be interesting to see the Irish club side. I'd love to see an Irish club side against a Welsh club side. You know the way they sometimes have those matches.
Yeah.
In the AIL teams.
Like the Premiership select thing they used to play, where they got the actual clubs on the Welsh Premiership to play our academies, was basically a contest between wily props who'd been in the game for years against super fit young athletes that were, they were green in terms of experience, but they were always way fitter. It's like if you put an Leinster Academy team into the AIL, bloody clean up most of the time, It wouldn't beat the top teams, but wouldn't beat the top teams every week, but it'd probably hammer the rest. So it's the conventional wisdom says that the Welsh Premiership is fractionally above the AIL. Is it? Is it not? You know, I don't know. Is the honest answer to that? But they have they've got a weird setup compared to our streamline. We have a really streamlined setup. We have natural provinces. They don't have natural region. Like their regions are created.
Constructs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they don't have that natural flow of the game. Like the game has been broken into 4 provinces in Ireland, like lots of other things, like GAA, like lots of other sports, and lots of other
Almost every sport.
politics
Yeah.
as well.
Almost every sport in Ireland is on a provincial basis.
Lots of other things besides sport are also on a provincial basis, and you know it's a natural fit. They don't have that for a start. They also don't have. They just don't have the streamlined top down model that we have. So they're never going to be able to. You know, so people who are big fans of the regions and hate the WRU are going to say, well, they're starving us of cash, and they're
Is there any of those people?
where yeah,
Because they don't turn up at the bloody matches.
Well, they're the only people who do. But
if
see,
there was-
the thing is, the people who turns up for the international matches are not them. They're 2 different sets of.
Okay,
of
but like
people.
if there was no Munster fans at that match, there would have been
Oh, absolutely.
5,000-6,000 maximum.
But that's the reality of regional rugby in Wales.
But the
And-
people
and-
who are the opposite, who turn up for international matches, who don't support the regions, who maybe still support clubs or whatever, who only support the international side, maybe would all say that the regions are mismanaged. So you know, there's a bit of both in there. You know, the
The truth
WRU.
is somewhere in between.
I guess it's
The WRU are being scabby with funding them, and from the WRU's point of view, that's possibly because
maybe they want
they're
to
not
break
so
them
well
and then-
run. And from the other side of the table, you know, they're not doing well because they're not well funded from the.
I guess maybe you might draw a parallel with the way there's a perception of, say, if you're a League of Ireland supporter, that you might see the Republic of Ireland team being a threat to
To your Shamrock Rovers.
your
or-
Shamrock Rovers and Bohemians.
The politics in the FAI are such that every level sees every other level as a threat. The League of Ireland sees the AU, the junior and senior leagues below it as a threat, because that's where, say for example, John Delaney, that was his power base, was amateur football in Ireland.
Yeah.
So you've got all these little political things going on, and it's similar to the WRU, except that at least in Wales they kind of mostly come together for the national team. Whereas in Ireland, it's just, ne'er the twain shall meet.
Yeah. Okay,
Soccer.
moving on. So one game I did see on Sunday was Connacht beating Montpellier.
That was
It
great.
was a great game.
Yeah.
It was a great game.
Like Connacht's really devastated with injuries. I think they've got 16 now on there.
Not just devastated in their selection, but devastated on the morning of the game and having
yeah.
to change that
Yeah,
selection.
yeah.
So it was an
Absolutely.
extraordinary performance from them.
And
Incredible.
we spoke last week after, say, their defeat to Leinster, and not capitulating. You know, they were down 35. They were down 35 points, or conceded 35 points in the first half. Could easily have opened the floodgates, and they didn't. They, and likewise, they could have easily folded up their tent and said, "Good luck," and they didn't.
Well,
No.
when I was watching the game, not only were they hampered by injuries and by all the other things we just discussed, but they're also hampered by Duplessis and other big
Exactly,
feckers
yeah.
running into them. Like that Montpellier team, as we've seen when they played Leinster, are animals. They're huge. Bismarck Duplessis looks like it's like the
But
John
the thing is,
the John Smith days when he was playing hooker.
I always kind of take on or get a bit, they're stupid. Honest to God, they might be huge, but they're nothing above the neckline. And it was the same when they played
But
Leicester.
you still have to tackle them, Dave.
I know,
You still have to, and they're huge.
Once you do tackle them and once you do stop them, as Connacht showed, Connacht outplayed them.
Fair enough.
In actual rugby.
I'm actually bigging Connacht up in this by
But I just think, that Montpellier team is a team that has learned precisely nothing from European rugby. Nothing. That big bosh will do you in the top 14. But once you get to European, to the kind of a more rarefied atmosphere where everyone, or not everyone, but most players are physical specimens of one kind or another, and are a bit more, intellectually gifted, you're in trouble. And that's what happened to Montpellier. It's the same as happened to Montpellier every year for they're in Europe.
I'm not disagreeing
as you
with you.
say, Connacht did have to stop them. You're right.
They had to stop them, and they looked, if they got ahead of steam up. Now, yes, they were bosh the whole time, but like just to physically take down the likes of Bismarck, he's a kind of a.
Wrecking ball.
It's very hard to appreciate what an absolute beast he is until you see him up close. And if you saw that thing coming at you, Jesus, like to be able to take him down at all is pretty impressive. And
You'd probably give him something shiny and he'd sit down and play with it for half an hour.
don't know. As his brother managed to study medicine and become a doctor, he can't be that thick.
No, that means his brother can't be that thick.
Well, his brother
he could
seems to be just
he could
as
be
thick.
a marauding idiot for all we know.
No, I don't think so.
I don't think he is, but a team like Connacht who are well prepared, well coached. Andy Friend has done a great job there. It has to be said.
For sure.
He's complete. I mean, after Pat Lam went, there was the interregnum.
The bad year.
We dare not speak of, which everything they learned they seem to have forgotten. And now they've learned it all again and learned new
built
stuff
on
as well,
top of
and
it,
built
yeah.
on top of it again.
Yeah.
I think they're actually a better team than they were under Pat Lam.
Yeah.
More strengths to their bow, I would say.
Yeah, they're a more rounded team.
Yeah.
And they were able to. I mean, once they had coped with, as you say, the physical onslaught, they were able to play better rugby than Montpellier.
They just needed to get that ball out near the end, and you could see when the ball went out into touch, it was around the halfway line that they were jumping for joy.
Yeah.
The last few minutes, they were just trying to keep them outside the 10 metre, their own 10 metre
And
line.
unlike their
Which
northern
they managed.
confreres, they put it out when the game was over.
Yeah, they were just trying to, make a nice climax to the game is what they were doing
Who
there.
was the guy that came on for Carty? Was it Owen Matheson?
I think so. Yes.
Well, he
Masterson.
was Masterson. He was a former Munster Academy that kind of got ditched from the Munster Academy and got a second chance.
And so just the winger who kicked the goal.
Yeah.
The out half that came on.
Oh yeah. Well, the winger who kicked the goal was the same story.
Yeah.
Well, no, that was
Fitzgerald,
him.
isn't it?
Fitzgerald, that's the guy.
Yeah,
I think.
sorry.
Yeah.
Fitzgerald.
he-
Fitzgerald, the out half that came on for Carty.
No,
Right?
He's a winger.
He's a
isn't
winger.
I thought he came on for.
No,
He
I
kicked
don't know.
alright, he kicked a goal.
alright, but
Yeah.
But he was the guy who was in the Munster Academy. He was in the
Yeah.
Irish under-20s, a very good player as well.
I think he played.
Never really got an opportunity.
Yeah.
I mean, in fairness, Munster do have good wingers.
But the thing, what I wanted to just sort of draw a sort of a parallel, like say, we spoke briefly against Jeremy Lockman as well, coming from the Leinster Academy where he didn't really make it up here, and got a second opportunity, and took it, is taking it with both hands. Like he went down on a trial basis. I think they gave him a 3 months or something
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that.
Yeah.
But he obviously worked hard and he's got his rewards. So sometimes you have to look, and while we don't like to see I don't know, say established players moving between provinces because it might dilute the province. But if you've got fellas that are in the academy that don't make it, well,
Yeah.
they're not getting a shake. They're kind of moving on, and all of a sudden they're going, well, what am I going to do? Like, am I going to go into the real world and work a 9 to 5, or do I want to give it one more go? And they take an opportunity and they take it, and they.
Yeah, that's what's really admirable about guys like Lockman. Like he was in the Leinster Academy, and there was a lot of talent in front of him. I mean, at the time he was there, you would have had Keane Healy, Jack McGrath, Ed Byrne, Peter Dooley, Andrew Porter was a loose head at that stage.
Yeah.
There was a lot of guys with big reputations and big trophy cabinets ahead of him. So he's kind of thinking, how am I going to get my chance here? And then eventually gets cut. And it would have been quite easy for him to say, well, I had a good go at it. I was in the Leinster Academy. Okay, these guys were ahead of me, but I did my best. So, grand, I'll go and get a job in the bank or something. But he didn't.
Yeah.
He kept himself in the game, and that's great.
But you have
that's
to,
admirable.
yeah. But you have to
It
give,
is.
like, every time I read articles or read things on the internet about, there's 45 Leinster Leinster guys playing throughout Europe or playing in the European Cup. I go, well, that's brilliant. That's not a bad thing. That's actually a good
I think
thing.
it's an excellent thing.
That's
I don't
given.
have a
But
problem.
people are writing it with the intention saying, well, look at all these clubs taking our players. They're not taking our players.
I mean, there was
There's
Leinster-
players
Just producing too many.
Leinster are getting rid of those
Yeah.
players.
I'm not. I think it's the ones that we would like to keep. That people that narcs people.
Okay,
Yeah.
And the guys
but like there's a handful of those.
yeah, there is. But guys like Lockman or
But like Tyke Byrne is an excellent example
Yeah,
because
or
there's somebody who, while he showed promise in Leinster, he had bad time with injury and he never developed. Possibly to do with that injury, he went to Scarlets, became a legend in a season.
By the way, he went because he was cheap. Like
Of course.
that's why like
Yeah.
That's my point.
No,
That's
but
the point.
he
Yeah.
got disenfranchised with rugby. Like he just wasn't enjoying
That's
it.
my point. It's like people are putting hindsight blinkers on and saying, "Oh, we lost Tyke." No, we didn't lose him.
No,
The guy was gone. We didn't even renew his contract. And similar with Jeremy Lockman.
There wasn't a blink when either of those left.
I think that's
okay.
credit to both of those
But
guys
just
for developing.
Andy Oakham was another guy
Yeah,
that
that's-
was in the academy, dropped out, didn't make it.
I don't think he was ever in the
He
academy.
was, junior
He
sub
was in
academy.
sub-academy,
maybe.
Sub-academy.
It was Trinity that he was playing
Yeah.
for that day.
There's only so many guys
Academy
that can make it through the system. And for
Exactly.
guys who come through the system and then don't quite progress to the next level, for them to find an alternate route, because as I say, it'd be very easy to just go, all right, I'll get a 9 to 5, you know. But for them to say, no, in fact, I'm gonna get that alternate route. If I have to go to England, or I have to go to France, or I have to stay in Ireland and make my way through to another club's academy, I'll do that, and that's an admirable thing. Those guys aren't guys Leinster lost, for want of a better phrase. Those are guys, in fairness to Munster and in fairness to Connacht, those are guys that those provinces found and said, oh, no, there's something in that
Yeah.
that we can bring out, and they did. And fair play to Lockman for his courage and his fortitude, and fair play to Munster for their foresight. It has to be said.
There are very few players
I feel
now
dirty.
that I would be really, you know. I mean, the obvious one is Joey Carberry. 2 years on, is it a big deal? Are we, you know,
I still think he's a big loss to Leinster
As
as a player,
as a fullback?
as
You're
a
going to
fullback,
say.
yeah, as a utility back. I think he is a big loss because he's just such a talented footballer. You'll find a place for him somewhere, kind of thing. I think he's a loss. I think Jordy Murphy's a loss because all of a sudden we've gone from having all the back rows in the world to having no fit back rows.
Yeah, but like, if Jordy Murphy hangs around, does Scott Penny get developed as much? Does Caelan Doris get developed as
But
much?
maybe
Does
Jordy Murphy's seen the
Max
writing on the
Deegan
wall, and he's
get
looking
developed?
up behind him, and he's
Exactly.
thinking,
well, there's an element of that as well.
I think Joey is
what you-
probably the biggest one, and the one that people feel most emotional about as well.
Possibly because
of
there was
the
so
way
much. There was so
the way
much.
it happened.
But he
Well,
wanted-
there was so much hype about him as a player with
but
Leinster.
Schmidt wanted him to go to Ulster, and he said no, and his father actually put enormous pressure on him to go to Munster because his father was the one who guided that deal, not Joe Schmidt wanted him to go to Ulster, or the IRFU wanted him to go to Ulster, but it was his father that actually negotiated the deal with Munster.
No, I'd suggest that
I did not know that, Jay.
making a guy move country would be more difficult than making him move county.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's what you have to remember. When guys go to Ulster, they are actually moving country. That's what we tend to forget. So moving county is a lot easier.
Well,
than moving
I think
country.
they were looking from a rugby point of view and where they might win stuff.
Who, Ulster? It's not going to happen for a while.
No,
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. The IRFU wanted him to go, and Carberry and his father, who looked at the whole bigger picture and said, well, are we going to win anything in Ulster? Are we going to win something in Munster? Possibly. More chance than... Okay. A couple of last games, right? Saints against Leon, 25-14. Wonder if that's going to have an effect on Leon next week.
It was great that neither team scored a bonus point. They kicked a shitload of penalties. I think they scored one try, Saints, maybe two. But as far as, I think it was only one, wasn't it?
I think it was one, yeah.
Yeah, I think fifth. Anyway, very few tries. Whereas, and the other crowd didn't get a bonus point. Leon didn't get a losing bonus point either. So, that alone is ideal for Leinster, and the home team winning is ideal for Leinster. So, now Northampton have to go away to Treviso, which I'm sure they're gonna look on it and say, "Oh, we've got an Italian team. We'll just go over and give them a slap." Might not happen for them.
The one thing
It
that-
should do.
The
in
thing that
fairness.
Saints have that
They
they
should
haven't
have the
had-
quality.
The things that Saints have that they haven't had in the past is they've a real player at out half.
Mm-hmm.
They've had
He's a real Premiership player too, isn't
well,
he?
they've had guys like Myler and various others who have, Bigger's a world class out half.
Yes.
He is, and they won't go over. The thing that they won't do is they won't go over to Treviso because he'll know Treviso. He'll have experience with him, and they won't go over. Oh, we'll whack Johnny Itai one and all that. He'll be going. No, you're actually going to have to play some rugby to beat them, but you will beat them, kind of thing.
Yeah, they should do. They should do.
yeah.
It would be nice if Treviso gave him a bloody nose. Or
With their Commedia dell'arte inspired jerseys.
exactly, whatever that is. Leon, however, at home to Leinster,
Philistine.
that's a big game for Leinster now. Away in France, for whatever reason, has always we've gone to some shitty French teams and either drew or lost in the last few
Your
years.
shirt looks a bit like one of their jerseys, only on black and white television.
Thanks, Dave. I'll take that as a compliment, I think. Yeah, losing in France has been a bit of a habit for Leinster over the years.
Yes,
We've
we've got
gone
very good
down.
at it.
We've lost this fixture, this corresponding fixture last year, round 2,
That's right.
against Toulouse.
Unexpectedly, we were expecting a bit of a ramp down there, and
I don't think
Toulouse
until we found out
turned-
Toulouse actually turned out to be quite good.
they turned into the team that was the game,
Yeah.
because I don't think they were having a good season in the top 14
That was the
before
game
that.
that kickstarted.
That was the game that they,
I don't think
and you could
Lyon,
see them jumping around like they won the World Cup.
I don't
too.
think Lyon were as good as Toulouse.
No.
No,
I just had a
hopefully
look
not.
at who Lyon played in there. They've won 8 of 9
Yeah,
in the top 14. and
lost away to Claremont. That's it.
That's the only one, yeah. But I suppose when you kind of bear in mind, these matches were played during World Cup, so some of these clubs are going to have significant reductions in their.
Pacific
they
Islanders.
beat guys like Toulouse, they beat Toulon,
They beat La
Stade
Rochelle,
Francais.
Bordeaux, Racing, Brive, Toulon, Toulouse, Stade Francais, and Selection Palouse.
Pau.
Paul,
Pau.
even.
Selection Pau.
Oh, well, yeah.
Teams that are big suppliers, or most of them are certainly, apart from maybe La Rochelle, maybe not Pau, but teams that will be big suppliers to a variety of World Cup teams. So they actually fair play to them for taking their opportunity and getting the
A
fixtures.
bit like kind of Connacht did in 2015-16.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
that they won a lot of their matches at the start
Yeah.
when they might have lost 2 or 3 players maybe to the World Cup, and then
Yeah.
they capitalised on that.
Builds
Yes.
the confidence.
Just one final game that I didn't get to was Racing beating Saris,
Yeah.
30 points to 10.
Battle of the Bastards.
I tell you, I'd love to go to a game in that stadium though.
Yeah,
it
it looks
looks
I'd
absolutely.
love to go to a concert in that stadium.
Fantastic, yeah. There's like, you know how wide a rugby pitch is. They have a screen that goes right across the
Yeah.
width of the
That's
rugby
because there's
pitch.
a drive-in movie in it.
It's
Yeah.
just
Saturday.
stunning, and it's all under a roof, and yeah.
Yeah.
I'd
Well,
love
we
to
need
go and
to
see
get
Leinster
Johnny
win
Rowan.
over there.
Get Johnny Rowan to build one of those stadiums for us.
Well, I suppose they need a roof like that to keep. I mean, because they are pretty windy.
Yeah. However, seeing them beating Saracens sent the kids.
They
In
did.
fairness to them. Now a lot of that's to do with World Cup squad being rested.
Yeah.
I'm sure, because they are.
They've also said they're
a
going
lot
to
of them.
take their punishment.
That's it, and
Yeah.
they're also going to focus on the Premiership
Premiership.
and getting back into Europe next year, and obviously not getting relegated, which sure they might manage that. But 22 points. Yeah, they would have finished 22 points ahead of, or 26 points deduction.
26 points, I think.
They would have finished
I think it's
26.
what it ends up at.
They would have finished more than 26 points ahead of the bottom team last year, so they should be well able to do it, because crucially they're not losing any players. They're not being shorn of any salary cap.
Yeah, we have a question on that. Sorry, we have a
on
question
there?
on Twitter from Ed O'Toole. And he says, Andy Good tweeted earlier this week about whether Saracens are still breaking the Premiership salary cap. There's been no media reporting about player transfers or anything else on the subject, so it would appear that they are. Thoughts?
They say they're compliant.
And they could well be, because payments that were made in one year needn't necessarily be made in the second year. So the stuff that was breaking the salary cap can stop, and they don't have to get rid of any players, because it wasn't the book salaries that they were paying guys that was taking them outside the salary cap. It was the little extras.
Yeah.
So if they stop paying the extras, then they're back inside the
It
salary
was
cap.
interesting to see that, say, Marmion was now, look, I don't know whether it was his agent or if it was genuine.
If it was his agent, it was a shit play, because it just as everyone on his brother knew Saracens had something rustling in under the.
But the point being, though, that that was nearly signed, sealed, delivered, that deal. That it was been reported as a fait accompli, and yet he re-signed for another 3 seasons in Connacht.
The other thing to look
So
at
maybe
is
that deal was just whipped away from him, and
Maybe it didn't exist.
Or maybe it didn't exist,
Saracens
or
could well
maybe-
have been looking at him. I mean, he's an international scrum half who seems to be out of favour with the international team, so moving abroad isn't an issue for him. So you've got a guy who's a quality player who'll be available to you for all your
He
games.
grew up in Wales anyway,
And he
didn't
grew up in the UK.
Yeah.
So you'd have to wonder, not that if Saracens were looking at him, but why all the others weren't.
Yeah, odd one anyway. So I think our game against against Lyon. I'm just curious to know. I presume we're going to start feeding a few more of the internationals back in.
Well, have we not pretty much done
Yeah,
all the
I think anyone
uninjured
who's
ones?
fit is there.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
Conan, Cronin, Levy, and Tyke Furlong was a
Well,
back.
Say,
I believe he's training this week, so hopefully we could get
well,
him.
Henshaw. What I was more sort of referring to Henshaw. I know he came on
Mhm.
as sub, but he didn't start. We have
But he
Carney.
did start. That was the thing.
No, he didn't. Rockland.
Oh no, he didn't start. No,
Yeah,
you're right.
yeah,
So
came
that
off.
was- yeah,
And then you
so
had
that-
Carney, who didn't make the 23,
Mhm.
yet would have played for Ireland up to a month
He
ago.
could well be.
They could do a horses for courses thing.
Exactly, he could well be the man they trust
Tyke-
away to.
Tyke
Because you remember
Furlong was
last
another
year?
one.
Yeah, Tyke Furlong's injured.
Yeah.
But
Remember-
how injured? You know what I mean?
I don't think he's that injured, so he could easily see him this
It
week.
might literally have been a week too soon. I mean,
Yeah.
literally.
But like, remember we had Jordan Larmour at fullback in the Toulouse game last year,
Didn't
and
go well.
we weren't too impressed.
Yeah.
Now this could be the kind of game where you want Kearney at fullback,
Hmm.
you know,
sure.
and maybe Larmour on the
Jordan
wing,
yeah.
you know. So we'll see how it goes, but I think they're, as I said about the game earlier, job done. Internationals, drip fed in, no injuries really. Well, obviously, Caelan Doris got a bad head knock, so he might not be there this week.
Yeah, he
but
looked because that happened right in front of us on the terrace,
he
and
looked groggy, all right, didn't
he looked out.
he? Yeah.
So
He didn't even go for a HIA. He just went straight into. We'll see you next week, or see
yeah,
you
I
in 2
don't think
weeks.
they, I don't think they did a HIA.
No, they didn't. Apparently they didn't.
No. Because you don't. There are two things that a medic has to ask before he does a HIA. One, did the player lose consciousness? Then it's bye bye, you're off. And two, did he display tonic posturing, which is fencing response? And if either of the answer to either of those questions is yes, then the
No
HIA.
HIA, just
No HIA.
No,
get
there's
him
no
in the
point. I
changing
suppose,
room, So, okay, we got an injury there, but we could see. We should. I'd say we're going to send a heavy horse over. We could do something with like sticking Scott Fardy at 6,
Yeah.
Reese at 7.
Reese at 8,
Reese at 7.
Josh at 7, and having Deegan to come on again.
I think if we're going to use heavy foot, and you'd be better. I always believe you're best having a specialist at number 8. It's a skilled position. And
So who are you putting, Deegan?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Deegan at 8 and Reese at 7.
Yeah.
That's another option.
If they go with that heavy foot approach, and the Leon pitch is a fucking quagmire.
Mm,
It really is. It's like,
I've heard that.
I mean, it's Welly's job. It's terrible. To be honest with you, I don't know. It's worse than Donnybrook was.
Wow.
Which
Uh,
stadium do they play in? Do they play in the one that the
No,
not where the
no,
Claremont?
no. That's the no. They don't play in that stadium. No, that's the they don't
The
play
football
that.
stadium,
Yeah,
I think, is it?
yeah. Well, it's used by the football. They don't use that stadium. No.
Okay.
So yeah, that's an interesting conundrum as to what we're going to do
Mm.
in the back row in particular. So go heavy is probably what we are going to do.
Mm.
Somebody said that they had very short blocks in the game last week.
Yes, they did. I noticed that.
Very short.
Yeah.
So if you've got Devon Toner, the tallest man in professional rugby,
Not quite, but close.
he is, isn't he?
No, should be Charters telling.
He's not.
He is.
He's a good
He
inch
is.
shorter.
New Charters
6'9".
6'11".
Well, let's not have an argument about it, but check it out.
Sure.
I'm almost certain that Devon Toner is the tallest man.
New Charters is 6'14".
Yeah. He's the tallest man in professional rugby. Anyway,
This could well be the second
with-
program that's on TV tonight to be fact checked rigorously.
well, with the two of them, with him and James Ryan, who is definitely 6'8", you could see that.
Evening, Declan.
You could see that. That that's heavy horse for sure. Scott Fardy in the back row and Reese Ruddock. That's very heavy horse.
Yes.
Whether you're playing Ruddock at 8 and Josh at 7, or whether you're playing Deegan at 8 and Reese at 7, you're kind of without a poacher though if you've no Van der Fleer. Obviously you're going to have him on the bench, but
Yeah.
I just think it's a bit risky. I'd probably
Yeah.
Either way I'd go.
I'm a great believer in play 6 at 6, 7 at 7, and 8 at 8. The specialists, but sometimes you have to. And Ruddock has played there before. He's not.
Oh
he's
he
not
has,
rubbish
yeah,
there,
he's
so.
played there
I mean,
before,
it
but he's
comes
not
down
a
to-
groundhog.
They mightn't make a decision until the captain's run. They have a look at the pitch.
Mm-hmm.
It could come down to that.
Could be a
Yeah.
possibility they could sink.
Yes.
Yeah,
If they're too heavy.
it'd be very
with
nice.
Snorkels.
it'd be very nice to get Tyke Furlong fit enough to be on the bench behind Porter.
Yeah.
That'd be to see him.
We are.
His,
I mean, it's times like this that you're very grateful for Michael Bent.
absolutely, guy. We're always saying he's the best third choice tight head in the in the competition. And yeah, if Furlong's not there, then great. But you know, on his day, Tyke Furlong is one of the best tight heads in the world.
Oh, absolutely.
Hasn't been in brilliant form, but maybe that's down to a bit of injury as well. Obviously, you've got Keane Healy on the other side, backed up by, well, it was Dooley last week. Presuming it'll be the same again.
I think Dooley's been involved in 6 of the 7 matches so far this season. Something
Great
like
player, very good, tough lad. So you've obviously got Kelleher then at hooker. I don't know that Sean Cronin's going to be back fit enough even for the bench. So you're looking at
that.
Tracy again.
I'd say.
Excuse me. There'll be minimal changes.
So you're onto the backs then. You're,
Smoking crack.
yeah, picked the wrong week to give up sniffing glue, Dave.
A classic.
So then you've got Sexton and McGrath, undoubtedly, with A.
They
Byrne.
might change around the scrum halves. I mean,
Yeah, Gibson,
no
Burke and
particular-
a Byrne.
for no particular reason.
We've got 4 Burns in here.
Yes, we've got burns everywhere.
Places burning down the house.
More burns than a hospital.
Wings. What are you going to do in the wings, Dave? Larmour and
Percy, Larmour and Lowe.
Lowe.
Yeah.
L&L. The LL Bean Company. Okay. And Rob Kearney a fullback. Okay.
Be an interesting selection.
So you've got plenty of choice. I know. I don't get the impression that the hamstring injury that Joe Tamani got was huge.
He looked a bit limpy.
Well, I didn't see him, but he
He was walking like on
Said
front of
in
terrace.
the
was he.
said
Yeah,
in
he
the
looked-
Irish Times that it could be a long term one.
Did he? Yeah.
Mm.
Okay.
That's
Well,
what it said in the.
I was getting mixed messages on that. So you've still got Ringrose and Henshaw and Rory O'Loughlin.
Because he was actually Joe Tamani was
battle that
walking
one out.
along with Jack Conan,
Right.
going from the tunnel to the seats, you know the way they do before the match kicks off.
Are they both limping on the wrong foot?
Well, Conan was on crutches now, and Tamani was doing it. I was thinking, would he not lend Tamani one of the crutches?
Yeah.
Well, we quickly have a quick look at the other fixtures next weekend.
Uh-huh.
So Ulster take on Claremont on Friday night.
In
That'll
In Belfast.
That'll be a good game.
That'll be a good game. I'd actually favour Ulster to win that because I mean it is a hard place to go. Ravenhill's a hard place to go, and French teams
It
don't
is.
do that well there.
But
Yeah.
Claremont are unbeatable at this time of the
They're
season.
unbeatable at this. They are one of the best teams in the world this time.
So
of the
that's
season.
why it's going to be such a compelling game.
It's going to be a hell of an
because-
atmosphere, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, like all the Irish teams are playing French opposition this weekend.
Right.
So, Munster take on Racing
Uh-huh.
in
Thomond Park.
Yeah.
The return of the prodigal son.
Yeah.
Sons.
Welly is another child.
He was on the bench last weekend.
Sibo's missus having a
Sibo.
baby today.
That's right. Yeah,
Yeah,
saw that on
I-
Twitter.
And Dunick Ryan, of course.
Ryan, who's a big favourite there. If Munster can get at Finn Russell, they'll win.
Possibly.
Yeah.
Possibly.
I think that'd be a very good game actually.
It'll be a good
That's
game to
another
watch,
reason for exactly. That's another reason it'd be a compelling game because there's all these little
subplots.
subplots going on. Can they get a Finn Russell? Will Simon Zebo's head be up his hole because he's just become a father for the 3rd time? I know mine was. Well,
And it never came down.
will Dunick Ryan, get because there's a great player.
Oh yeah.
Very, very fond of him. Will he get the wood over John Klein? You'd have to think so. Like Munster don't have a huge amount in the second row. Wycherley looks very good, but he's quite short. I didn't realise until recently
And still
how
young.
short he was. Billy Holland has kind of had a very good autumn of his career, but again,
He's a real go-to guy in
He's-
terms
yeah.
of just his strength of character.
but when you step up to the next
uni-
level,
But does he have that next level? I'm not sure.
See,
he
Dunick
does.
Ryan probably has 30, 40 Ireland caps. You
Yeah,
know?
Dunick Ryan is the next level player.
Billy Holland, does he have any? I don't know.
yeah. So there's a lot of little subplots there that could be very interesting. Plus, you've got the Thomond Park factor. You've got the fact that it does make them that inch taller when they run out in the field there.
I wonder, because Munster won the last time.
Yeah.
Mhm.
They
Munster
met.
have beaten them a couple of times.
Yeah, they seem
Like a
to
few
give
years
them
ago now, there was a maybe about 5 years ago. I think we needed them. We needed Racing to win, and
Yeah.
they.
They got a man sent off after 5 minutes.
2013.
Yeah.
I think that was
I
2013.
remember watching it in Exeter. I think.
But if Munster can get at Finn Russell, and he is eminently gettable.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, we saw that in the World Cup.
Yeah, and get that whole rolling Thomond Park factor behind them, which isn't as much value as people think it is, but it is of value.
Well, I think
Absolutely.
particularly like that they got their bonus point last week.
Yeah.
They have everything to play for. They have 5 points in
Yeah,
the
so
bag.
there'll be all that feel good coming off
yeah.
the terraces as well. So it'll be interesting to see.
But as
The only
a-
thing is that Racing will be well prepared because they have plenty of guys in the camp and around the camp over the last
a big
18
squad
months
too.
who know exactly what it's like to play in Thomond Park.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And between guys who played there on either side of the line and guys who played there for Racing and lost, they know what it's like. So the fear factor, maybe not the fear factor, but the surprise factor won't be there.
The other thing, while we all thought Munster were developing nicely under Stephen Larkham and all that, just what I saw in the Ospreys game, and I didn't see the whole game, I saw most of it, I just didn't think they were just missing something for me. They were,
But there was that thing. There was that moment where there was a turnover, and your man Jeremy Lockman, but he didn't pick up the ball and run with it. He looked to pass, and he threw out a 20-meter pass. Who I think he hit a second row. Who then moved the ball on again. You wouldn't have seen that from Munster
that's
last
true.
season, 2 seasons ago. You know what I mean? That they do want to get the ball wide and
Absolutely.
get the fast lads.
Rob
But is it a bit early?
Rob Penny was right.
Is it a bit early in their development under Larkham to
I don't know.
date Europe?
Well, we'll find out next week. They beat Ospreys and they beat them with the bonus point, despite
Just-
maybe having an off day. So
And it wasn't Wales, in fairness.
Yeah.
Toulouse, one of the Irish matches, Toulouse against Connacht.
Yeah, Jesus,
Connacht,
that's a
well,
tough
that's a tough
station.
one, but they've gone down there maybe 5 years
They
ago.
have.
Yeah.
Beat Toulouse.
And that was like they won the World Cup final back then. You know?
let's write them off so Connacht will win.
Yeah, yeah.
Don't have a hope.
Have a
No
hope.
chance. Actually, it's going to be very, very hard because Toulouse are real. Toulouse 5 years ago were a bunch of spoofers.
Exactly, yeah.
This Toulouse
Not
team
now.
isn't.
No.
I just want to be like, there's obviously there's a few more matches, but
They're trading on the name.
I'll move away from those. Just want to, first of all, just mention Conor O'Shea leaving Italy. I thought I read during the World Cup that was already done and that he was
Yeah.
going to
he
work for
left
the
before his
RFU.
contract was up.
Okay.
I'm not sure why. Maybe there might have been some payout or to save a payout. Who knows? I don't know. But he's gone
Okay.
anyway.
And the other one was that CVC have been confirmed that they're going to pay.
I just want to get my Limal tape. So I can play Never Ending Story on it.
Well, apparently they're going to pay 120 million sterling for 27% in the Pro 14.
They're paying 27% of the Pro 14's commercial revenue,
Mhm.
to be precise. Is what it is.
Well, they seem to be there. Have they got the Six Nations, or
No, they haven't.
they're
But they're
close to the Six
Close.
Nations?
They're in
They've
negotiations.
got the Premiership.
They've got the Premiership. It's up in front of the Competition Authority, so the deal is obviously done. If it's up in front of the Competition Authority in Ireland,
Interesting.
I don't think it makes any difference to us in Ireland. To be honest with you,
I'd say this is like a bigger picture trying to merge two leagues.
that has to be their end game.
Like, well, what else are they doing it for?
Yeah. it
Well,
has
maybe
to be their
they'll
end game.
maybe they won't quite do that. Maybe they'll have a Super League type
Maybe they
thing
will.
with
Maybe they will.
with the best
a
teams.
crossover between the Pro 14 and the Gallagher Premiership has to be their end game. There's no point to it otherwise.
But like, what's the point in Europe then? It's just we have a few
Well,
French teams.
that's the question. They don't own the EPRC, so they don't
but-
care about that. That's
but
not
like-
their problem.
No,
But like,
but
what-
for the
like-
rest of us,
But the French teams, they prioritize. Like, we know that they prioritize the top 14. It's 130 years old. It's got this history to it. You speak to any French support, like they don't.
Absolutely.
They just don't.
Geez, don't tell that. Or the deal will be off. Munster will if they don't get their annual trip to the south of France.
I know.
No, I mean, what I mean is, I don't think it'll make a big difference. I mean, everybody was talking, oh, isn't the money great and all that. I don't think it'll make a big difference to us in Ireland because the money will go to the RFU and they'll spread it down, and that's fine. They'll run it with fiscal rectitude the way they usually do.
Well, you might see development of grounds around the country.
Yeah,
You
no.
know,
What I mean is, the money
Yeah.
will go into the game. Is
For
what I
paying
mean.
off Thomond Park debt.
Yeah, possibly. But what I mean is that it'll be done correctly. The one I worry about is actually the Welsh yet again. because
But surely all their Christmases will come together.
you think so.
You think so, but
But
again,
there's
the money's gone to the
There's a
unions.
lot of people. The money's going to the WRU. It's not going to the regions.
Yeah.
The regions are the ones who are losing 20% of their commercial income for the next. How long is this deal for? 10 years? However long it's for.
Well, do not the WRU not own the Pro 14?
They are the
Or one of the owners?
Now, one of the owners,
Exactly,
before
yeah.
regional rugby Wales, but it's at the end of the day, it's the regions who are going to be losing 27% of their revenue from the commercial activities of the league. But the money's going in at the top, and lots of people are kind of going, "Oh, I want some of that."
Yeah.
And then you've got another.
I'm just wondering
and
if
WRU
just,
can
just,
let-
just let me finish this. You've also got the situation where the regions aren't entirely owned by the WRU. There are private owners there who have, admittedly, long-suffering private owners who have been putting money in year after year after year after year. They could decide. We say Scarlets get out of the Welsh €40 million. Scarlets get, we'll say, 10 million. Yeah, whoever. Billy Bloggs, whoever it is who owns half the Ospreys, could say, well, I've been putting in money for years, I'm going to take that and I'm going to just take it out of the... Because he's quite entitled to it. It's his money if it's given to his club. So the big worry for me with that money is... the big money for me is that money would end up going out of regional rugby. And unless there's a 28% increase in revenue, it'll stay out.
But I'm just wondering
I don't know.
how they put a valuation on the commercial revenue of the Pro 14 being...
120 million.
Well, 120 is 27%. So, like, whatever, 500 million. Like, I'm just...
Well, do you know
Yeah.
what it is? It's basically these
But
guys.
it could well
these
be
guys
over,
are
over the
used.
period of time of the deal, which I don't know what it is. I don't
Okay,
know what
but
the term
let's
is.
call it 100 years because, because seriously, like, I don't know what Guinness probably pay, maybe 5 million. I'm picking this number out of my head. And, you know, what do BBC Wales put in? What do Air put in?
Yeah, but
like,
these guys are not looking at any of those. These guys have sold the revenue for Formula One around the world. These guys are looking to
They were
exploit.
disastrous owners of Formula One, according
Fair
to the
enough.
Formula One teams. Couldn't wait to see the back of them.
They are looking to exploit other markets with their, you know, what did how many success in
Yeah,
that?
we do have to remember.
We
I
don't
mean,
know.
But-
you've got there are two major unexploited markets already within the Pro 14 family, in Italy and South Africa. So there are commercial gains to be made there. Maybe not so much South Africa because there are
a big rugby.
socioeconomic things there, but Italy is particularly the north of Italy, which is a wealthy country. It's the biggest population within the Pro 14, and it's relatively untapped.
well, okay, fair enough. But, like, Italy have been in the Six Nations for 20 years now, and probably in the
Somebody should have tapped them.
in the,
By
in,
now.
the in the Pro 14 or Pro 12, whatever guys it was, probably 10 years, I'm guessing, maybe 8 years, I don't know. The point is that they've been playing rugby against us for quite some time, and we always hear this. So Fiat will come in and be a big sponsor, or there's all this,
And it hasn't happened.
there's 60 million people living in Italy, blah, blah, blah. But we haven't really seen any benefit financially from the, you know, even like their...
Well, maybe CVC think they're
like,
smart enough
oh,
to.
fair enough, but like
do
even
it.
their TV deal was with Rye initially, and then it fell through, and they ended up getting a, you know, very small regional station to do the coverage of the matches in Treviso and Zebre.
I think I mean there's a difference between the national team is well supported and well sponsored and earns a lot of money. I mean Italy is a very wealthy union because of that, because of the Six Nations. National teams it always has blue chip sponsors, and it's a big thing in Six Nations. It is a big thing in Italian rugby. It's probably the same as us that the Six Nations pays for the rest of Italian rugby.
And Benetton.
And Benetton. Yeah, well, Benetton, indeed, yes. But there hasn't been that kind of take-up in the Pro 14 commercially. So maybe that's one of the areas where CVC see a commercial expansion. But what we all have to remember, and people are getting, not necessarily you guys, but people are getting very excited about the idea that we're getting 40 million quid. What I want to know is, over how long? Because next year our revenue is down 27%. Our commercial revenue, by default, it's down 27%.
Well, they're going to hope that they can grow it by more than 27%.
Well, we're going to hope
We're
they
gonna
can grow
hope
it by
it too,
more than 27%. Because for us to get a 1% increase, it has to
I'd love to know what,
28%.
but like 27% of nothing is nothing.
Yeah.
So, like, what is
Well,
what is our commercial revenue?
There are commercial revenues from the league. Obviously there are, otherwise there'd be no point to it.
But like, what are the commercial revenues? What commercial revenue does Leinster make out of the Pro 14?
Well, Bank of Ireland wouldn't sponsor Leinster to play nobody.
But like,
They wouldn't give us $1 million a year to play 5-6 games a year.
No.
You know, so obviously the league has an inherent value because it provides sponsorship opportunities for companies.
But that money's not going to be affected by this too.
No, that money's not going to be. But what I'm saying is that there are commercial opportunities around the league. Obviously, you've sponsorship, you've TV deals. I'd say if you add up all those 5 TV TV deals or 4 TV deals altogether, there's probably. I mean, it's not going to be like BT Sports deal, but it's going to be significant.
Okay, maybe 5 million, right? I don't know. I'm guessing, but
Oh no, I
like
think
it's a bit more than that.
I think it's hitting.
With South Africa
it's
now
20 or
on
30
board.
million.
okay, fair enough.
So you've got all those kind of things, but the point is, it might be 27% of not very much, but it's still 27% that we won't have next year. And I'm more I'm from a Leinster perspective, I'm not too worried about it because I know the IRFU will do it right or look after it well or manage it correctly. I am worried about some of the other units involved though.
Yeah, faux show.
For sure. Anyway, boys, as ever, thanks very much. Thanks very much for watching. And of course, if you are watching on Facebook or YouTube, please give us a like and a thumbs up. Thanks a million.